when my rights were terminated in Texas, there's no pathway back. Once your rights are terminated, you have to wait till they turn 18. Unless the adopted family chooses to have contact with you. So my youngest daughter's adopted family didn't choose to, and my son was still in state's care, so I couldn't have contact with him. So we partnered with Texas Public Policy Foundation on a House bill, which is House Bill 2926. And what the bill would do is allow people who've had their rights terminated 2 years later, if their children are not adopted, then they can petition for the judge to relook at the case. But you have to do like all of these things, and the child cannot have like someone who is wanting to adopt, and you have to rigorously show that you've changed.
Yeah.
So we got the law changed in 2021.
I'd like to talk to you about a few things. Just quick story about yourself, what things were like before prison, during prison, and then after. And then the unique thing about you is your involvement with the Statewide Leadership Council and your leadership personally in being an advocate for types of legislation and criminal justice reform is really what the guys and the ladies would like to hear about. And, at some point, maybe towards the end, you could kind of sum up your opinions on the legislative session that just ended. So,
yeah.
No.
Okay. So you want me to start by telling you about me?
Yeah. What was life like before prison? That not that you have to talk about whatever it was that you were convicted of, but just what was life like leading up to that?
Yeah. So I started using when I was 16 years old. I was smoking weed with the people and skipping school, but later on in my life, I realized that was my coping mechanism. Everything was so crazy at home. I had an alcoholic father and really abusive. And so, anyway, but I started out with just smoking weed, and then it gradually grew over time to harder drugs. And so for the next 20 years, I was using, going to jail, and in order for me to be normal, I had to wake up and use. And it was towards the end, it was heroin and meth. And so that was the only life that I knew. I knew how to use, I knew how to hustle, I knew how to get money, I knew how to chase my tail, but I didn't know how to stay clean. And so all of my charges are directly related to my drug addiction. It first started off with like shoplifting, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle because I left with the car and never came back. And then I got a tampering with government documents charge. And that's the one that really messes me up like later because it sounds so terrible. But
in terms of like trying to get jobs and stuff.
Yes. And what it was I was cashing fake checks. And so, and the person who got arrested with me, she was doing the same exact thing. We were going together. Hers got dropped to a forgery charge, and she did 90 days. I did 2 years. So when I got out, that was like my first big felony. And I started having children within this time, right? I was addicted to meth, addicted to heroin, had 3 children, felonies, could not find a job. So I ended up losing custody of all 3 of my children. And the state of Texas terminated my parental rights. So that was like the beginning of the end, right? Because I was in 2015 and I cycled like completely out of control then. And I always tell people that was when I was the most dangerous. Like, I didn't care about anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no way to support myself. I didn't have my children anymore. So I just, ran chaos. And so, anyway, so I got arrested for the last time in 2016. And that I really honestly thought that I was going to go to prison. I already knew what the routine was, I'm going to go in, they're going to sentence me, I'm going to go to prison and blah, blah, blah. So the life that I was living when I went in my mind was so extravagant because I had respect in the streets. I could get anything I wanted. And I was just like highly thought of, right? And so I was like, I'm just going to go back out and, live the life until it's over, because that was all I knew. But while I was there, my oldest daughter, my mom brought my oldest daughter to come see me. And she was like so upset. And I asked her what was going on, and she was like, her dad overdosed. And so her dad and I had used together her whole life, but he was never like as like me. He was never where he needed it like all the time. And so that really was like a wake up call for me, just seeing how much she was affected by it. Even though I didn't have custody of them, he didn't have custody of her, but she still was affected, and it was like this light went off, like, oh my God, my kids are not dead, They will find me one day. And if I continue to go back out and do these same things, I'm either going to end up in prison or dead. And so from there, there was a recovery coach that would come into our pod, and I never wanted to talk to her ever. I was like, I know I'm not going to get clean. I've been to rehab. I've been to prison. Nothing has worked. I'm not even going to pretend but so after I found out my daughter's father overdosed, I stopped her and talked to her. And she told me about Santa Maria in Houston. And they pick up, like, if you want to go to Santa Maria from Plains State, you have to do this paperwork and stuff. And then they'll make sure that on your release date, you'll be able to do intake. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And I mean, it was really terrifying because I didn't know anything about the other side of the coin. Like, I knew how to live a certain way. So I was terrified to get clean. I was terrified to stay clean. I was like, I'm not gonna. I knew I had felonies and I was never going to be able to work like I wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's what I, believed. So,
yeah. So this was in 2016, 2015?
So I got arrested in 2016 for the last time. I did a year at Plains State, and I got out at the end of 2017. And so, right? Yes, the end of 2017. So December 2017. And I went from Santa Maria, and since I came out with nothing, like nothing. except for the clothes that they gave us when we left, And I mean, you have like this whole thought, I'm going to go do this whenever I get out. I can't wait to eat this. Well, we went and ate at some Mexican restaurant, and I was so uncomfortable being around people, like I couldn't even like focus. And then I was so nauseous after eating real food. So, I mean, that was crazy, but
And you went into a recovery place from playing?
yeah. So Santa Maria is a inpatient treatment.
Mhm.
And so when I went there, I'd already been sober for a year, but I wasn't thinking sober, I was still like thinking about drugs, thinking this is what I want to do. And
Did they have anything for you on Plain State Jail?
Well, look, so I was at Turning Point,
Mhm.
which was the drug dorm, like the treatment dorm.
Yeah.
They had, or this is when I was there. I don't know what they have now, but they had Turning Point was a whole pod of dorms.
They still have it.
They do?
I was there Monday for class, and they were telling me so and so is in Turning Point, and so she's having trouble getting out or whatever. But yeah,
Do they have been there, done that?
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that language being used, but Turning Point, they cuss more freely than the guys. Sometimes it's I'm taken aback, like, whoa. They're not cussing at me. Like they're just yeah.
It's just part of conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, I still have to watch my mouth. The Turning Point program to me, well, and it was just a big giant joke. Like we never did anything. It was just feet on the floor, 4:30 a.m. You can't get back in your bunk until I think after dinner. So in a way, that was like the only thing that it really helped me with was being able to routinely get up every morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from there I went to Santa Maria, and Santa Maria, helped me get like just basic needs that I really didn't think about, getting my eyeglass prescription up to date, having my medical stuff taken care of.
Yeah. What part of Houston is that?
Santa Maria is over the Heights area.
Okay.
But there's two different facilities. There's one on Tidwell that's for women and children. And then the facility that I went to was for just single women. And
when were your parental rights were taken away already at that point?
In 2015.
So in that initial release, you didn't get to see your kids?
No. No. And so while I was in prison, my youngest was adopted. And it was a closed adoption. So still, to this day, I haven't seen her since 2015.
How old was she?
She was 4. My son was 5, and he was placed in several foster homes. And so once I had some clean time, once I started showing that I was serious about staying clean, my mom was bringing my daughter, my oldest daughter. So I never really lost contact with her.
Yeah.
And I mean, then I think that's a big part of what helped keep me focused, like there is still hope somewhere, And I remember in Santa Maria one day saying, you know what, maybe I was just like the vessel that got these kids here. And that's my only purpose in life, So I mean, it was a really difficult time because I didn't know where my son was. I still don't know where my daughter is, and I couldn't be there for my oldest daughter. So it was really just me having to accept what I had done and, be accountable.
You're reunited with the oldest daughter and son now?
Yeah. So last session in 2021, we had partnered with Texas Public Policy Foundation. And so when my rights were terminated in Texas, there's no pathway back. Once your rights are terminated, you have to wait till they turn 18. Unless the adopted family chooses to have contact with you. So my youngest daughter's adopted family didn't choose to, and my son was still in state's care, so I couldn't have contact with him. So we partnered with Texas Public Policy Foundation on a House bill, which is House Bill 2926. And what the bill would do is allow people who've had their rights terminated 2 years later, if their children are not adopted, then they can petition for the judge to relook at the case. But you have to do like all of these things, and the child cannot have like someone who is wanting to adopt, and you have to rigorously show that you've changed.
Yeah.
So we got the law changed in 2021. He came home Christmas of 2022. And that was after 7 years of him being in foster homes. And
so you only had him 7 months?
Yeah. So it's still
7 years.
Yes, and it's still a learning process, Like,
yeah. How old is he?
He's 13.
Oh, wow. Well, at least you got him now.
Yeah, and it's difficult sometimes because I wasn't a parent for so long, and now I have this child 24/7.
Yeah,
and he's been through a lot.
Yeah,
and so these homes that he was in, I learned different things like yesterday he was telling me that he asked me, well, why didn't none of them want me? And I just told him because they knew that I wanted you. Because if somebody would have kept you, I couldn't have got you back.
Yeah.
And so, it really broke my heart because he spent so long thinking nobody wanted him,
Yeah. And you couldn't do anything about it.
Nothing. So, yeah, we got the law changed.
Is that was that your initiation into the law?
Into the lead, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you got involved.
I got in 2019, just kind of not as working, just for prison conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2021, I just happened to hear about this bill that they were working on. And I was like, oh my God, this is me.
Yeah.
So, and he's going to be the first child in Texas to be reunited.
Oh, wow. So then what was it for you then getting involved with TCJE and Statewide Leadership Council? Was that something you had thought of while you were locked up? Were you the kind of person that was trying to work on your case, or just what got you interested?
Well, one of my main things when I got out was, what am I going to do now? Like, I don't want to be destined to work at McDonald's for the rest of my life, And so I was going to meetings out in the world while I was in treatment. And I met Anthony Graves. You know who he is?
Yeah.
So
I've never met him, but I know who he is out here in Houston.
Yeah. And so he was talking about this Smart Justice Speakers Bureau that he was going to do. and it was going to teach people who've been to prison how to tell their story. And then we like watched him tell his story to Congress on solitary confinement and the 17 years he did on death row, falsely accused. And so he was like, take that pain and turn it into a purpose. And like, I just knew that's what I want. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I was so blessed to have come into contact with him, because that's what changed everything.
Yeah.
He showed me, we did a 12-week class at TSU that taught us policy, public speaking, media, all of this stuff. And I was like so oblivious. I didn't even know how a bill was supposed to, I don't.
Was that, how did you get connected with him? That was a part of the rehab program. They brought him in, or what was that like?
So, the lady that, okay, so while I was in prison, there's Turning Point, and then there's We've Been There, Done That. And that's Kathy Griffin. You know Kathy Griffin?
I know a Kathy Griffin, but
not the comedian.
Okay. Then that other Kathy Griffin, I think I have met her, but the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, so she goes into the Plain State and does like the program, which is people who've been arrested for prostitution several times. And so anyway, she came in while we were there, but I wasn't in the same program. But once I got to Santa Maria, they told us that she runs a meeting that we're allowed to go to. And so that was one of the meetings that I was allowed to leave the facility for. Well, Anthony and Kathy used to do the prison radio show together when Anthony was in prison. And so now they're like best friends. So she had invited him to come speak at one of her meetings. And so I just happened to be there that day. And he said, hey, look, I'm starting this Smart Justice Speakers Bureau. If you want to get in, go to this website and apply. So I immediately left there and applied. And I thank God got in. Because that opened all the doors. Yeah.
Was it something you could do online? You just watch videos and lectures, or you went to TSU?
I went to TSU with the Smart Justice Speakers Bureau. And I had just gotten out of prison. I didn't have anything. So I was still, once we started the program, I was moving from Santa Maria to the women's home, which is a long-term transitional housing. And I still didn't have a job. And so I was riding the bus from Westheimer to TSU twice a week.
Okay.
And just to do this class. And we had people come in from so it was Anthony Graves and ACLU that had partnered. Okay. And it was an amazing program. And I think they want to start it again, but something happened with the funding source. And so I know that they were talking about doing one for youth, youth coming out of the TJJD and learning to use their stories. And, what really helped was learning the policy, I didn't know, like I said, I spent 20 years out there on the streets. I knew how to do all of this other stuff, but I did not know how did a bill come along, and also walking into so check this out. I was released December 15, 2017. I'd met Anthony, got into the Smart Justice Speakers Bureau. December the 15th, 2018, we were standing in the state capitol So on my 1 year release date, I was visiting the Capitol for the first time, and it was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never thought I'd be standing here.
Yeah. And so how did that evolve into Statewide Leadership Council, TCJE? Because that's how I met you, or when I think we met at the TIFA conference that Tracy put together in 2021.
Yeah. Anthony brought us to the Capitol with ACLU. And so just connecting with, networking with people at the Capitol, I was getting involved with like the Women's Coalition through Texas Center for Justice and Equity.
Mm-hmm.
They had a women's coalition and they did a women's rally on International Women's Day. And so I went from Houston to Austin for this International Women's Day rally, and I did not have a ride home. But I knew that I wanted to be, this is what I want to do. And so I just showed up, and it was like just amazing to see all of these people who've been incarcerated, and they were all fighting for something. And so I found a ride back and got involved with these women. And then whenever the fellowship came open at Texas Center for Justice and Equity, I applied, but I did not want to because I did not think that I qualified. And I had a very wonderful mentor at the women's home, and she kept pushing me and telling me to apply. And so I finally applied, and Doug Smith was the one that was doing the hiring.
Okay.
And so he gave me a chance.
This right before I was talking to you, I was editing an interview I did with Jose Flores, who was working for TCJE under Doug and Reggie as well.
Yeah. And I worked with Reggie at the Smart Justice Speakers Bureau.
Okay.
And so
with him last year.
Yeah, he's it's such a small network of people once you start, like, everybody knows everybody in this realm.
Yeah.
But
and how did the statewide leadership, where did that come from?
So Doug, when I got hired on as a fellow, Doug had this idea that he wanted to, so he was always at the ledge. And he said that he was tired of being the only formerly incarcerated voice at the table, and so he wanted to build this council of other leaders that were able to bring their stories and their experience to the table. And so he said, look, this is what you're going to be focusing on, the Statewide Leadership Council. And we're just going to see what happens. And so, we birthed it together. Yeah. We had Nagi, our initial meeting, and that was in 2020. It was just our first meeting. And now we are in 90 cities across Texas. And we're hoping to grow more during the interim. So next session, we can have more of our voices, because it's still.
Is there a curriculum or a way that the ladies who are still incarcerated could learn this process? What would that look like? I mean, they could go to the law library and figure stuff out for themselves, but I think it would be interesting to have a streamlined version of something like the Smart Justice Bureau?
Yeah. It would be a really great opportunity. And so we have a curriculum online, but we don't have anything for people on the inside. I send newsletters in, but
well, maybe that's something I could help you talk to the right people and help develop, because I'm doing that through this is I was already approved for this stuff to go in. But then under the name of Lee College, I'm working on a curriculum that will be free to anybody in TDCJ if they want to enroll. It'll be on reentry. And if they want to enroll, they just write me, I enroll them, and the app is pops up on their tablet, and then they are enrolled. There's homework and quizzes and stuff like that. And Securus will allow places to do that, provide educational information, as long as the education is free. If you charge, then Securus charges you a fee for using their platform. But if your information is free, then they let you use it for free.
Wow.
So that might be an avenue for you all to put some kind of a curriculum.
That would be fantastic, because once the tablet started rolling out, I had asked if we could get on to the tablets, because I get a lot of mail asking me like, what's moving in the system or in the ledge, and what are y'all fighting for? And so I would love to be able to like teach people how to find that out themselves. And that's what.
Well, you can do that through me for the time being. I'm thinking if you do, doing something like with Anthony on a curriculum that could be done on Lantern. But one of the things I had envisioned for you is just giving regular updates, because you don't even need me. Like if you just get on your own computer on Zoom, record yourself and send me the footage, then I'll put it on the tablets.
Oh, heck yeah.
Now you can start your own sort of show or whatever, and I can tell you how to do that. But in the meantime, if you have stuff that you feel is important to say, you can do it through mine.
That's amazing. Yeah, we have advocacy trainings that are recorded, like, how does the system work, that we do for our people. And then we always finish that training with a Capital Tour.
Okay.
But,
we'll talk more about that, because I think that that's something that's important, because they ask me too, but I don't keep up with the ledge like you do. So a lot of times I just defer. I'm like, let's ask Alexa, or let's ask Maggie, let's ask somebody from Tifa, because I'm not nearly as involved or paying attention as they are, but they assume that I am.
Right.
But I just can't keep up with everything. So it would be great to have like some regular information for them.
Well, I just did a ledge wrap-up newsletter, and
saw that.
If you can if I can send it to you, I don't know how to get them. I just mail them to people who write me.
Yeah. So I think when I talked to Marcy, I did an interview with Marcy, and I put it in there, and I put in the address for Lioness, and I think I put the address for Statewide Leadership Council. But if you could just email me the Statewide Leadership Council mailing address.
Yeah, we have a new one.
Okay, because then, right now with this Zoom, the huge black spot down there, I'll just put the address in there and let them know they can write you. Perfect. I get a lot of mail too. I'm gonna just try and start answering it like this, because I can't be answering all that.
That's a great idea. I just proposed that we request for funds to hire somebody to answer our mail, because it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, doing it like this is one way I'm going to deal with it, because sometimes, it'll be questions that a lot of people have. And so if I can just answer it on a video, everybody can see it, and then it's better done that way.
Yeah. And I would if I go through my mail and be like, hey, look, a lot of people are asking this, I'll send you a little update on what they want to know. That would be amazing.
Well, I think we should continue to talk and maybe do this again. But what is some advice or words of wisdom you would give some of the ladies currently incarcerated, from your perspective? What can they be doing to better themselves and prepare themselves when they get out?
Do not think it's over. I believed that I was so far gone that it was just never going to ever be different. And even with my kids being, my rights being terminated, I was like, that's it. I'm done. It's over. But it wasn't over. And so in the life that I have today, anybody who knew me 20 years ago is baffled. My mom still, she just today, she said she already had a plot for me because I was going down that road, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And so just don't think it's over no matter what. And yeah, knowledge, education, teach yourself, because once you get out here, that's going to get you so far.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's some more stuff I'd like to do with you to help them as well. So I'll get with you about that outside of this, but now we're about to get rudely cut off because I only have a 40-minute time. But thank you so much for spending time to talk to me and talk to all of them. I'll have this uploaded and they'll be watching it in a few weeks.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah. And yeah, let's talk offline.
All right. Oh, and also the September conference, you're going to speak.
Yes, still. Absolutely. I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.